And finally tonight, right after Kent Tonight, we have a brand new episode of Kent Film Club, where we take a deep dive into the impact of certain films and what they've had on guests' lives, and to find out what's to come and a little bit more about some of the big blockbusters dominating the film industry at the moment is our film presenter, Chris Deacy. Chris, thanks for joining us, and Happy New Year to you too. Feels a little bit late, almost midway through January. But I wanted to talk to you firstly a little bit about the Golden Globes, actually. We saw some big successes on some of the huge films from last year, including Oppenheimer, Succession being crowned big winners. We saw Barbie's box office celebrated as well, grossing more than £1.1 billion. So some really big years came out last year, but what was your favourite one that you saw?
Well, Oppenheimer, of course, was the big one, and because it was released in the summer, it's quite unusual for a film that's not released around this time of year to do so well. I think Erin Brockovich, going back almost 20 years, sort of came out in the April of the previous year and then was a big box office and big Oscar contender the following year. But Poor Things did well, which I saw the other day, which is an extraordinary film, not for all tastes, in all sorts of ways, sort of an updating of the Frankenstein story. Good to see Barbie in there. Perhaps disappointing that One Life didn't appear. It's one of the most exciting films that I've seen lately, with Anthony Hopkins playing Nicholas Winton, who saved lots of young, mainly Jewish children from Czechoslovakia during the Second World War. But a really good, I think, crop of award season films and some very strong films over the last 12 months.
Interesting as well, because we saw the whole sort of almost debate last year of whether to watch Oppenheimer or Barbie. So interesting to see how that all panned out. What do you think we can expect for the year ahead? Some other huge films? Maybe can it compete with 2023, which seemed to be a huge year for the film industry?
Yeah, and I think that the template for this actually is Priscilla, which is doing the rounds at the moment, because last year we were all really excited about the big Elvis film that Baz Luhrmann did, which is bombastic, full of extravagance, as you'd expect from the director of Moulin Rouge. But then Priscilla, made by the director of The Virgin Suicides, Sofia Coppola, which is a very introspective film. So it's kind of, I think it may be that we're moving away from some of those big Marvel films, superhero films. I think that there's a lot of other genres which are starting to do the rounds, and certainly thinking of Poor Things, a very hybrid film which has got lots of kind of historical interest, romance and gothic horror.
And just quickly as well, as we look into the next year, many people will be setting New Year's resolutions and trying to take on new skills. Are there any films that sort of echo that, where we see the characters maybe trying new skills or looking at the year ahead with a positive spin? Yeah,
and there's a film called Anything But You, or Anyone But You, which is, and of course it sounds like The Taming of the Shrew.
Yeah.
And it's a sort of a rom-com, a bit like Ticket to Paradise, the George Clooney rom-com with Julia Roberts from last year. And I think that's the sort of the template that films that maybe over the last few years we haven't seen all that much of, doing a resurgence, sort of films that do well on the small screen, but actually packing in at the multiplexes. So I think that might be the trend that we're moving towards in 2024.
Hopefully a big year of big films in 2024, and for Kent Film Club as well. Chris, thank you very much for joining us. That's all from us this evening. I'll see you very soon. Have a lovely evening and good night.